Ahoy, ahoy was the original greeting in America. But then somewhere along the line, hello took its place. I don't know. But is it just me, or have the past 2 years been this whirlwind or this, clustered job? Folks have been getting more crazy. It's not that folks were completely sane before Trump came to office, but I think him becoming president has released some sort of I don't know, a disease or a pathogen. If you guys remember the movie Blast from the Past, Brendan Fraser played a guy who had spent his whole life in an underground vault, and he came out and I believe it was the '90s. Came out to the '90s and was just shocked. I kind of feel like that is the status today for people who are still sane. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's always been that way for the people who have always been sane. But how sane are we really in a climate like this? Let's look at the playbook, if you will. I'm not just gonna say the left, even though predominantly it is with the left. But let's just look at the playbook. They're using the same players, obviously, the same tactics, the same tools in the shed. This is nothing that you haven't heard before. But these are all things used to divide and conquer. You divide the people, you keep them at odds with one another. As long as we're at each other's necks, there's no way that we could possibly organize, and attack the actual guilty party. But let's look at some of these players. And yeah, folks, we're jumping right into it. Under any other circumstance, I'd do an introduction or maybe a joke or something. But I just want to just get this out of my system. The same old playbook with the same old players. We've got gun control. Of course, there's rhetoric, and there are certain events that are exploited towards this end. You got people like Piers Morgan, who in his past he's used school shootings to try and advocate for gun control. And again, this stuff is nothing you haven't heard before. Gun control is the best way to conquer a people if they can't defend themselves. Gun control, homophobia. You've got the LGBTQ community. I don't know. The alphabet community. You got the gay mafia. Kevin Hart, he was in the news recently. He was supposed to, he was scheduled to host the Oscars or something like that, and some loser somewhere dug up an old tweet who, that read something to the effect of, if my son came home and played with my daughter's dollhouse, I'd break it over his head and tell him, stop, that's gay, or something like that. And that actually, a variation of that was included in an old stand-up that he did before. Very funny stuff. I can't believe how thin-skinned people are. It's really a herd mentality thing. It's really what it is. It's something that was just cast down from upon high, as it were. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe a celebrity took the ball and ran with it. I don't know. I don't know exactly where it started. I have an idea. I have an idea where all of this identity politics nonsense came from or originated, but that's not the scope of this show. But Kevin Hart, he was scheduled to host the Oscars, and this person found his tweet, and he got some hot water, got some calls from the Oscars committee or whatever. He made a couple videos standing his ground. Very sound logic, and he was a lot nicer than I think I would have been. But but it didn't take long until an apology tweet did come out, and it's absolutely nuts. And another thing I'll say is Dave Chappelle is another one. Dave Chappelle, he used to be funny. He used to be completely funny. He used to be a trailblazer. He wouldn't apologize for anything. And by the way, we should stop apologizing for so many things. We are who we are. We have free speech. But Dave Chappelle, if you watched his latest special on Netflix, I don't know if you can say latest anymore. I think it was like last year. It was a 3-parter, and the first 2 parts were funny, very funny, but the last part was completely just social justice warrior rhetoric, touchy feely, just not. It wasn't him. I don't know how else to say it. But yeah, so we've got the LGBTQ community, and there's a lot of evidence to be seen as far as a gay mafia is concerned. Of course, we don't know who the Don is in this gay mafia, but they're there. And I think homophobia is just, of course, it's a ridiculous term. Nobody's scared of homos. I mean, homosexuals. Nobody's scared of them. But homophobia is a term that's used like, it's used against a person who obviously doesn't want homosexual contact or involvement in any of that kind of stuff. But if you don't want to be part of it, then all of a sudden you're a homophobe. You're scared of these people. No. Homophobia. You got racism, of course. That's a tried and true one. Racism. It's withstood the test of time. Anybody can just play the race card. And even if it doesn't go to a court of law, the court of public opinion is still capable of ruining lives. Racism. More on that in a little bit. I think I want to focus a little bit on racism after I get through some of these other notes. Oh, and then we've got public servants and their abandoned oaths. The thin blue line. Blue lives versus blue lies. And it's not just cops. It's officials, people who hold office, people who get voted in, people who can't execute the job description of that office, who can't even receive payment according to the Constitution, perhaps of that state, who can't execute the duties of office, who can't receive payment without taking an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution. But that oath is abandoned from the get-go, But we see it most with a lot of the public servants who are the boots on the ground. We see it quite often actually with public officials and even lawyers. Lawyers take an oath to the Constitution. I don't know if anybody out there knew that. That makes them public servants. That makes them agents of the state. Oh, I've got some recorded calls on that I might share on another date. We got abortion and women's rights. Women's right to abort. Women's rights to murder a baby, to take a life, because they're supposed to be able to decide what they want to do with their own bodies. Well, when in actuality, abortion has nothing to do with their bodies, but the body of the little baby developing inside of them. That's a hot button issue. I don't know. It's in this day and age, in this climate, it's not going to get old. We got another side of that coin is equality. And what equality really is dominance. Women want dominance over men. I'm just going to go right out and say it. Call me old fashioned. It shouldn't be that way. I'm not saying they shouldn't be allowed to do stuff or that they can't do this or that. But don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Don't tell me that you want equality when really what you want is to have power over me. That's the bottom line. That's the truth of the matter. And I'm almost done with these key points. Again, for those who tune in late, I'm going over the playbook and the players that is used politically against us, and dominantly used by the left. Up next, I guess another side of that same coin, or maybe another quadrant of that coin, would be rape culture. We're supposed to believe all women now. Believe all women. If you look at them weird, or if you, I don't know, use the wrong tone with them, they can levy a sexual allegation against you. Rape culture. Believe all women. Did we believe all women when Trump brought out the ladies who had accused Bill Clinton of misconduct? Did we believe them back in the 90s? No. I don't know. Maybe we did, just not to this extent. I don't know. According to those ladies themselves, they certainly didn't feel like they were believed. No, we talked about the gay mafia earlier. There's a Clinton mafia. There's certainly a Clinton kill count. Another story for another day. And along with rape culture, we have Me Too. And I'm sure you've all heard it, the hashtag Me Too. But back in my day, a hashtag meant pound. But it's because of things like rape culture, which is non-existent. Unless maybe we talk about prisons. And Me Too, where every woman can jump on that bandwagon. We have things like the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. Wow, what a swing and a miss by these people. Swing and a miss. A swing and a miss. But they still blemished his life. They took the life of not just of a man, but his whole family. They were all dragged through the mud. Dragged through the mud. I don't know. Okay, you grammar Nazis can get on me for that. Him and his wife and his daughter, and these women wanna cry about women's rights, and they're the ones attacking this very family, which includes 2 women, a mother, and a daughter. It's craziness. There's religion. Religion is a hot button issue because this country was founded on religious freedom. But when you delve into religion, and namely it's Christianity, because Christianity is the only one that's attacked, really. And I'm not talking about Catholicism. Catholicism is not under attack, even though they have an innumerable amount of protected pedophiles in the cloth. No, it's Christianity specifically. Nobody's attacking Buddha. Nobody's attacking Islam. If anything, Islam is attacking hordes of other people. But no, it's Christianity. Even it's even to the point of ridiculousness to where people who have claimed to be abducted by aliens included in their stories that these aliens told them that Jesus Christ was not, and Christianity is not real. It's not. It's a it's a weapon of the enemy. It's an illusion. It's not real. How does that equate? Like if there is intelligent life beyond us, which I'm convinced there's not, why would they care about Jesus? Why would they care about Christianity? it's it's ridiculous. And you know what? The people who fall for that stuff are probably those nerds out there who fall over themselves when it comes to the newest Star Wars movie or a Star Trek convention. I don't know. But why? Why is it just the one in America that's being attacked? Not just in America. There's Christians being murdered all over the world. Why? Why just one religion? And the last one here I have on this list is free speech. Free speech. The thing is, what happened is we were given, rather not given, liberties that we have as human beings in this country were recognized in the Constitution, and what they did was they turned those liberties into privileges. And privileges can be taken away. So it's the same playbook here. You just turn free speech into hate speech, and all of a sudden, sanctions can be brought upon you, penalties can be brought upon you. Just like we're supposed to believe all women, we're supposed to believe somebody when they cry about being offended by something you said. When did free speech become hate speech? I don't think hate speech really is a thing. But it is being perpetuated by people who don't think gender is a thing, So I don't know. And that's another thing too. Well, I mean, you could lump that in with the LGBTQ. Ugh. They're confused. They're a confused bunch. And that's what they want. They want confusion wrought among us. Because if we're confused about things, if we're constantly lied to about things, if we're told one thing and shown another, it kicks up a dust of what do you call that? I don't know. I forget the term. There's a term for it when you're thinking two opposite things and your mind can't reconcile the two. Cognitive dissonance. It kicks up a dust of cognitive dissonance when free speech becomes hate speech. What's hate speech, really? If there's a penalty on anything you say, is it really free speech? Is there a need for free speech zones? I thought America was a free speech zone. But let's hit on just one of these points really quick here. Let's really dig deep into this. Let's unpack the issue of racism. Racism, and partly it's a play on white guilt. And the idea behind white guilt is that you're supposed to accept the guilt of your past. Of your past? Maybe the past of a nation. But part of the past of this same nation is that we ended racism. Let's forget about that. That doesn't help the narrative, White guilt. White guilt is when white people try and wag their finger and silence other white people because this nation had white slave owners and black slave owners. But forget about that. Racism is weaponized. It's weaponized, and white guilt is friendly fire. I don't know any blacks today who were slaves, and I don't know any whites today who owned any slaves. We've had a black president, though. We got black captains of industry. We got black influential celebrities and artists. We got a lot of those. White guilt. And with that is white privilege. But I think what this weaponizing racism is just a shift of privilege, And it's societal. It's a societal thing. And we've been programmed with movies and TV shows and music and specific events. You know, I was a kid when the L.A. riots happened. I was a kid when Rodney King was beat. I was a kid when Reginald Denning was pulled out of his truck and beat in response to the Rodney King event. You know, it's and let me just tell you this: things like this is exactly what you would expect. You know, if you delve into things like MK Ultra and uh, breaking people's psyches and installing other personalities, I think that's what's happened on a much wider scale. I think that I think that psyches have been broken and new personalities have been installed, all thanks to movies and TV, music, uh, current events, news cycles, and news stories. You know, then you have all the video games and these smartphones, these colors and these lights. You know, it's like it's hypnotizing you. It's putting people in a trance, and it's just so easy to program people. It's the MK Ultra project, but on a mass scale. It's taken not only a nation, but you know, it's taken over the earth. I don't know, maybe not the whole earth. You know, there are still some places like, well, I don't know. I don't know. I was gonna say places like the Philippines. I'm half Filipino, by the way. But but you know, you take a visit to the Philippines, and you can kind of see. Nah, I think this thing has a really far reach. You know. Anyways, racism. We got white guilt. No, there was a speech given by a great man before. Some would say not so great. I don't know. But there was a speech given by a man, Martin Luther King Jr., and he talked about uh, how we should judge one another not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. But it seems like people have taken up the former and just abandoned the latter. It's all about the color of our skin today. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I do know why. I just explained to you. We're a petri dish. We're an experiment to these people. These people, you say. What do you mean by these people? No, I'm not talking about black people. I'm talking about elites. I'm talking about uh, systems of control set in place by world bankers, you know, and perpetuated by these people who were, air quotes, elected, supposed to be representing us, but, you know, executing the wishes and the desires of a cabal somewhere that's beyond us. Supposed to judge each other not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Well, there is no content to our character today. Nobody has character. There's no characters, no class. It's all skin color. Obama was a half-white man, but he was black, right? Obama was half-white. He is. He's half-white. He's still our first black president, right? That's what they say. I heard one comedian say that our first black president was Bill Clinton. I heard another comedian say our first black president is Donald Trump. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What does that send us off into a different realm now? What is black more than just a skin color? That's something to think about. I think those comedians are actually geniuses then, if that's the point. If that's the point they're trying to make. Well, Obama is a half-white man, but he was the first black president, right? Contrast that with the fact that if Tiger Woods, you know, half-black guy, Tiger Woods, if Tiger Woods speaks against the narrative, he's not black enough. It's madness. It's craziness, people. It's not black enough. Everybody's focusing on the color of skin. I don't know. They're weaponizing the argument. That's what I said earlier. Racism is weaponized. You know, if somebody's losing an argument, all they have to do is call you a racist. That's it. Now nobody is focusing on the issue that's being argued over. Now everybody's asking themselves, is this guy racist? But they don't even know what the word means anymore. They don't even know what the idea or the concept of a racist is. They just know racist bad. But what is a racist? What constitutes a racist? What is it? Using the N word? I hate that. Louis C.K. said that he hates using the N word. Not the N word itself, but just the phrase the N word. I agree with him. You know, it's like, do you really think exploiting the N word is going to fix your community? It's not. If anything, it's going to get you a handout. And how does a handout help anybody? I mean, if we have a section of society today, if we have a people who get so used to getting their way, and it's not just black people, it's all of these groups have their own branches of people who whine and cry about different things until they get their way. They all do. All of these groups do. Rape culture, the gun control crowd, the LGBTQ gay mafia. They've all got their sections of people that is like the equivalent of the beggars on the street corner asking for your change. These people trying to tug at your heartstrings or turning their argument irrational to get you to flustered up emotionally so you can agree with them. Exploiting the N word is not gonna fix your community. If a person uses that word, I mean, so what? You weren't a slave. They didn't own you. Oh, they're not black. They can't say it. What? That doesn't make any sense. If it's a racist word, then it should be deemed as such, no matter who says it. I don't see you going after any rappers. Rappers use that word all the time. It's a racist word. It's a racist word, right? No, but they're black. They're black though. They can say it. Rappers won't fix your community. Rappers won't fix your community. But they'll take your money. They'll take your money. You go buy their record. No. You don't buy the record anymore. You pay for the download. They'll take your money. But they won't fix your community. I mentioned content of character earlier. What's the content of their character? These rappers, what do they rap about, huh? They rap about money. They rap about big cars, or not big cars, fancy cars, big mansions. Booties shaking everywhere. Alcohol. I don't know. I don't know. I used to listen to rap. I don't know the specific kind of alcohol there, but they rap about alcohol, the party life. They'll take your money, and then they'll influence you to live that kind of life. They're not going to fix your community. They're contributing to the breaking down of your community. They're not helping. But while other people who aren't rappers and who aren't black are saying certain things that you don't like, no, they're the enemy. By hunting them down, by gunning them down verbally and politically, that's going to fix your community? No. That's not going to fix your community. Not one bit. Not even close. But at least you're having fun though, right? You're having fun. Just it's clubbing Whitey? No. You're not helping. These rappers aren't helping. Exploiting the use of the N-word is not helping. None of that is helping. If you wanna help your community out, then you're gonna pinpoint exactly the ones who are the actual oppressors of you today, and that's not the right. I mean, it's a left-right paradigm, but if you're gonna place it on something, it's the left. They've tricked you into having no father households, into accepting help or financial assistance from the government. They've tricked you. The whole reason your community is broken down because fathers are not encouraged. And they know it. And your dependency is not on God. It's not on the father in a home. It's on government. Wake up. let's talk about the half. You know, let's talk about that half white man, Obama. He's a Democrat. He's a Democrat. Democrats are on the left. Progressive liberal. Obama's a Democrat, and he's out and about today. Well, maybe not today, but recently, in recent past, this week or last week, talking about, rather taking credit for all of Trump's success. 2 years into Trump's presidency, and Obama is parading himself out there, taking credit for Trump's success. And I point out the fact that he's a Democrat because these liberals, they love talking down to you. You know, you're dumb, they're smart, you need them. That's a large part of their platform. You're too dumb to take care of yourself. You're too dumb to realize that your neighbors are racist, and they don't like you. And if you don't put all your dependency on Big Daddy government, well, they're gonna get you. I don't know. There comes a certain point to where it's condescending. They go from a condescending thing, talking down to you, to where it's actually needed because you've complied so much with that condescension that you've just become a dummy. But Obama's on about he's taking credit for Trump's success. Um, but whatever happened to that? You didn't make that speech. You didn't make that. You know what I'm saying? But he's going out and about taking credit for Trump's success. But if you bring Obama up in a way that criticizes him, I mean, and rightfully so, what are the libs going to tell you? The liberals are going to tell you, stop bringing up the past. You know, he's not. Last I checked, he's not president anymore. And then I don't know. Let's say they say that on The View or something like that, and the folks out in the crowd, they'll clap and they'll hoot and they'll applaud. You know, and the same reaction when a person like Obama tells a person like Trump, you didn't make that, you didn't build that. You know, they tell you he's not president anymore, and then just conveniently forget the fact that when he was president, he brought up previous administrations. He brought up Bush. You know, the inherited whatever he said of the previous administration. He would all constantly bring up Bush. They say stop bringing up the past. Okay, let's stop bringing up the past. Let's do that across the board. Let's stop bringing up the past. Let's start with not bringing up slavery anymore. Slavery, the purchase of Mexico, the slaughter, the quote slaughter of Native Americans. I'm not saying it wasn't a slaughter. I'm just saying, they weren't the Care Bears that people want to make them out to be. Okay, in the course of time, in the history of the world, there have been different civilizations. There have been different people who rose and fell. Different people who conquered and were conquered. Okay, that's the way of men. That's just the way it's been from the dawn of time. Slavery, the purchase of Mexico. People don't like talking about the purchase of Mexico. There are people who still claim, well, it's actually Mexico. America ripped us off. We're not living in America. We're living in Mexico. If you're here in Arizona, like I am. Why you're in Arizona, you're in California, you're in Texas, you don't know Spanish? Stop bringing up the past. Stop bringing up slavery, the purchase of Mexico, Native Americans, Bush. Stop bringing up Bush. Last I checked, Bush isn't president. But they do all of this. They'll thrust upon you, these crazy rules. Don't bring up the past. Oh, he's not president. But then they'll bring up the past. And all of it is to guilt you or to shame you into believing or thinking like they do. This is a schoolyard tactic. Okay, this is for kids. You know? No. They use any and all means to shut you down. Any and all means to shut you down. Because at the end of the day, free speech only applies to them and people who think like them. And I'll tell you what's really going on. We parked on racism for a little bit, but I'll tell you what's really going on. It's a war on words. Thus, it's a war on thought. It's a war on free thought. The war on free speech, my free speech, your free speech, is a war on words and a war on free thought. They can't just let it be and let my free speech be my free speech and let your free speech be your free speech. No, just like America, for some reason, thinks that it has to police the world, these liberals and these progressives and every progressive NPC under them feel the need to police you. They feel the need to police anybody who doesn't think like them. It's a war on free speech. It's a war on words. It's a war on free thought. And why? Why the war? It's because they want control. That's really all it is. I've heard people argue, religion is just control. It's just a control on the weak. It's control on the people. No, for some religions, sure. That may be true, certainly. But for a lot of people, government and politics is religion. It is a form of control. And things like this, when they wage war on you, on the individual, it is because they want to control you. They don't really believe that you have freedom. You're free to believe like they believe. And if you don't believe like they believe, well, it's going to be a bad day for you. That's the long and short of it. That's the entire reason why we have the political climate that we have today. It's a war on words. It's a war on free thought. It's a war on freedom. It's a war on liberty. You know what the Bible tells us? Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Let's do a couple spins in your cabeza. It's a war on words, I talked about the N word earlier. How about the R word? Huh? Retard. How about the retard word? You know what retard? Retard means slow. You don't see anybody banning the phrase flame retardant. No. Only when it can be used, weaponized against you, to make like they care about people with special needs for their political gain. By the end of the day, only then is it a bad word. It's retarded. Slurs is another one. It's another battlefront. I'm not saying that I want to hear people using these slurs. I'm not saying that I want to hear people disrespecting somebody else for something so stupid, but we have the freedom to do so. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like this whole thing. It's kind of like when you, and this this happened to me a few times. You're with your little brother. You're growing up. Maybe you're 6 or 7 years old, and you get into a fight. Mom or dad comes in the room, and they say, "Stop fighting. Okay, now hug each other. Say you're sorry." It's fake. And that's the only way you're going to get mom and dad off your back if you comply with these nonsensical regulatory suggestions. You know what I'm saying? People can say racist things and not be racist. Even Candace Owens said that. And if you can't reconcile that in your mind, there's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? If I'm reading the Huck Finn book, and I'm insecure enough in my mind to, when it addresses a certain character named Jim or whatever his name was, uh, to bleep myself or censor myself in my own mind reading this book, then I'm no smarter than anybody else. I'm just as sheepish as anybody else at that point. Retard, racial slurs, gender specific language. You know what I'm saying? They want to ban mommy and daddy from the books. They don't want a Father's Day. They don't want snowmen. They want snow persons. Utter ridiculousness. Even comedians got to tiptoe around this stuff now. It's sad because now you're getting to the very end. Like, it's like, I don't know. The last three bastions here would be comedians, first of all, because jokes are jokes. All right, comedians, but no, now they're kowtowing, slowly but surely. And then you have we the people, but where's that going? Nowhere. Not only are we being forced to comply, but we're forcing one another to comply. No, so the very last bastion of hope with any of this stuff is real hair-legged preachers. But you don't want to hear any of that, do you? No, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear a real man of God get up behind a pulpit or maybe on a YouTube video somewhere and preach about sin because you enjoy your sin too much. You don't want to hear a preacher who's a man, by the way. A man pastors a church, not a woman. You don't want to hear a man called by God to get up and start preaching about right and wrong, because you're too busy trivializing right and wrong because, as I said, you're enjoying your sin too much. It's easier to do what thou wilt. And this is what you get. This is the kind of society we have now. This not so brave new world you've woken up to upon leaving the vault. This is the kind of society you have now when you want to take God out of the equation. This is what you get. I want to leave this broadcast with one verse. Psalms 33:12. It says, the first part rather, Psalms 33:12a, says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." We're not very blessed right now, people. We are killing babies. We are at each other's throats. And government is not the answer. Government is not the hero in this story. That's all for now, I guess.